crypto paradise. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay. Living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Alrighty, let's kick this thing off, servers. Good morning from paradise. Happy Monday morning. My name is Crypto Amaru, joined as always by Nick, the Nostradamus Hitman. Got a lot of predictions to pat ourselves on the back about this live stream today. A lot of great stories to cover as well. Shutdown looks like it's ending. We got potential $2,000 stimulus going out to tax-paying Americans. The market is looking green. The labor market's looking bad. The rate cuts are coming. The QE is coming. I hope you guys stayed locked in and stayed holding as we've been telling you to do for the past 3 to 6 months of consolidation. So look, before we get into all the wonderful stories we have on tap for today, wondering, how was your weekend there, Nick?
Yeah, let me get this shared real quick, but nothing too exciting. I actually did a lot of visits to the local gaming store, the Pokemon shop. As you guys know, I've been selling some Pokemon boxes, so I sold some more big boxes, picked up some more cheap cards to go in the collector set. Watched a little football, made some money last night on the Chargers, so that's good. I needed Herbert to run 18 yards. I thought that was an easy lock. He ran 19 yards, so I guess it's a win, but it was a close one. Came down to one run, but really, other than that, just kind of been watching the charts, and we'll go over the charts, but we see a big bounce here. As predicted, the vote has come through. Dems have crossed the aisle and are reopening the government. Remember, 3 days ago is when I did a whole video on this and came on the live show and told you why I believe that they will be opening within days. And what do you know? Over a weekend, the government working on a weekend, that's wild. They have voted to reopen the government. So we strike again. The markets love it, and we'll look at those charts here in a minute. How about you?
Yeah, man, great weekend. Mostly chilled with my family, nothing too crazy. Ran some errands. Did not watch a ton of football. I sort of, lose a little bit of interest midway through the season, except with respect to my Eagles, who are playing the Green Bay Packers tonight. I will be fully locked in and watching every minute of that one. But didn't watch a lot of football. You get to this point of the year, and a lot of the teams are just crap and garbage, and the matchups are shit. And I'm like, all right, let's get to the playoffs. I know who the good teams are. Outside of maybe 1 or 2 matchups per weekend, it's pretty much shitty games. All right, so let's talk about the shutdown. Just kick this off, because absolutely you were spot on as per usual with the prediction that, I guess due to the fact that the Dems had that clean sweep of the 3 elections that had happened last week, that sort of opened the door for them to say, all right, let's just cool the jets a little bit, back off from some of the outrageous demands, and decide to reopen the government. I actually think it had to do with something a little bit more simple than that. If you start to impact tax-paying Americans' ability to fly in this country, which had been happening over the past few days here, that is what always brings both parties to the negotiating table. It happened the last shutdown, it happened this shutdown, and there are, I'm sure, other reasons too, but don't mess with our ability to fly. You can mess with the EBT stamps for the poor folks. They don't pay taxes anyway. But you start to impact my ability to fly, we start to get up in arms, and you got to end the shutdown. It looks like that's what happened. So, yeah, happy about that. What's your overall take? And do you think this current iteration of the shutdown sort of negotiation bill gets through the House? Because it hasn't gotten through the House yet. The Senate, yes, but not the House.
I would think it probably does get through the House. I don't know the voting terms and voting percentage. Remember, you needed 60 votes in the Senate. That's what finally happened. I think like 8 Democrats came across the aisle and 1 or 2 independents in order to finally get us reopened. The timing is pretty ironic. You know, we said, hey, once these elections are over, okay, they did their sweep. All right, I bet you it reopens within days. Over the weekend, they reopened. And, yeah, it was a day after you just started also hearing like, oh, Delta's going to cancel hundreds of flights or whatever. So, you know, everybody always gets panicked, up in arms, and that's because, well, the news needs your clickbaits. So they get you all worked up. You go tell your neighbors. They go tell their aunt. They go tell their grandma. Everybody's hoopla and hoppling, and everybody's going crazy. And what do you know? 2 days later, none of anything you talked about even mattered. You wasted all your time, and you got nothing done in your own life. So that is what continues to happen. I think it's very sad that my entire TikTok and Twitter feed was people crying that they're going to starve because apparently you can't live without government intervention for 7 days. That is what was happening. And that should show you all you need to know about those individuals and how pathetic our society has become. So don't be relying on the government. And if you're on food stamps, but you still have a job or you pay taxes, okay, well, you're taking advantage of the system. Good for you. But hopefully you weren't out there doing videos saying you can't survive without government intervention for 7 days. Because remember, you can literally not eat or drink water for 7 days and still survive. So pretty pathetic on the part of all those individuals. But again, I think this gets passed through. I think the government's going to do a full reopening, and the market does as well. If we look at these charts, stocks are up big. Bitcoin up from the $98,000 low back to 105, but we are not in the clear. So let's look at these charts. Do you have any comments before we dive into the charts here, Crypto Amaru?
This EBT shit's been pissing me off, man. If you have the wherewithal, the ability, and let's just be honest about it, the intelligence to put together a TikTok video of yourself shopping and then complaining and putting together a somewhat cogent argument as to why you are entitled to free government money, well then you are capable of getting a goddamn job, right? If you can do all those things, then you can get a job. So it's just, the whole thing's crazy. 1 in 8 Americans are on food stamps? That's what I found out. Why is that not the headline, right? 1 in 8.
Yeah, and even
look, I would get like 1 in 20.
Even
There's
a bigger
1 in
number.
20 people that just can't get their shit together for whatever reason. Their life is in total shambles. They don't have the intelligence, the drive, whatever, and they just can't do it. And okay, well, we don't want them homeless on the streets. We don't want their kids starving, so let's give them food stamps. 1 in 8, though? A lot of these people, they got fancy cars. They live in pretty nice accommodations. They're absolutely taking advantage of the system. So that, to me, is the biggest eye-opening thing, this entire shutdown. We got to fix this. 1 in 8 Americans should not be relying on government help. It hurts everybody, by the way. Obviously, it hurts us taxpayers. We're having to pay higher taxes. This also causes further inflation, right? If we didn't get $500 billion, that's what's being given out to people every year, $500 billion or something like that, some insane number, given to all these people on the handouts, that is that much less money going into the economy, that much less money being shoved into the pockets of Walmart, who are now having to raise their prices because the same amount of people, there's more money chasing the same amount of goods, price go up. So it causes inflation. It causes our tax dollars to go up. And if you're on the government dole, it also hurts you because you are learning a terrible lesson for yourself and your kids, which is you do not need to have ambition, you do not need to have any drive, you do not need to educate yourself or improve your own life. You can just be a lazy bum and get free money from the government. That hurts them too. So this thing is a complete and utter, just eye-opening for me. And it gets me incensed, as you guys can tell. You can tell I'm worked up about it. The whole thing pissed me off. So I'm glad the government shutdown's done. Let's fix this welfare system, because 1 in 8 Americans on the government dole should outrage everybody.
One is 1 in 8 Americans just for SNAP. If you toss in government subsidized housing or any other government subsidies, it's even a higher number. Yes, there's some overlap there between SNAP beneficiaries to those, but the number gets even more egregious, like 1 in 6.5 or something like that when you factor in all government subsidies, plus those who have overlap. So I have tons of stories, IRL stories. It sounds like, we're assholes, but I'm telling you, I live it. I own a vending machine route. The last week when I was stocking the vending machine, somebody came up to me, asked why I was scamming, and I was like, oh, what do you mean? Did you take $1 from me? Yeah, I'll give you $1. No, you raised your prices by 25 cents per soda, and my SNAP benefits are taken out. This is an able-bodied 30-year-old man with a 25-year-old girlfriend walking around at noon on a Tuesday, pissed because both of their SNAP benefits went off, and I raised the cost of a soda by 25 cents. And I'm still cheaper than the local Quick Trip. So, you think I want to hear that? I'm out here doing crypto, doing side businesses, pet stores, vending machines, stocking sodas for you, and you're going to complain to me while you walk around on a Tuesday because your SNAP benefits are off. It's disgusting. I hate it. But, I digress. If you want to get, if you want to get on the bandwagon of what we talk about, go do research some data and figure it out yourself. It's absolutely disgusting. And I don't think government subsidized housing, that's an even bigger scam. Real estate costs millions and millions of dollars, and these people are just handing it for free. Here in the St. Louis, look up the projects or Section C housing in St. Louis. Literally what they do is they build brand new buildings. You get to go in 5 years later, 10 years later, they're all boarded up. They move you to a different plot of land that builds you new buildings. It's disgusting. We hate it here in St. Louis because we live it and see it each and every day. But what is Bitcoin doing here? Obviously a nice rally off the news that the government's probably going to reopen. Also the stimulus checks, which we haven't talked about. We'll talk about that a little later. Maybe that's speculation fueling the rally as well. But you're not out of the woodwork until Bitcoin can put in a higher high. And it is crazy to say, but a higher high is up here around 115 to $116,000. Well, Nick, why do you need that? Well, you just keep putting in lower highs and lower lows. This is still a bear trend. Lower lows, lower highs, bear trend. So you need to flip this and put in a higher low and a higher high, and that's where the reversal starts. So we're still in this big consolidation zone, but we're still in a short-term bear trend here on Bitcoin, even with the rally today. So we'll see how that progresses. Up 0.21% today. We were up big yesterday with the news of the government probably reopening. Ethereum is actually underperforming Bitcoin, down 1% today. It was as high as 3,700, back down to 3,550. But still, I don't know about you, even though these are in bear trends and we're not off to the races yet, and who knows, I think it's a little nice and refreshing to see some bounces off these lows because they were quite large, especially the likes here of Ethereum, who went as low as $3,000.
Oh, it feels much better to see the green in the market, even if you're still well off the all-time high, 16, 17, 18% perhaps for Ethereum off the all-time high, but it still feels much, much better. So, happy about the bounce. Let's see if we get any follow-through here. I think there's a good chance we get some decent follow-through, although my sort of view at this point is we're likely going to continue this consolidation on Bitcoin up until a couple things happen. One, we really need these OG whales to cool it on their dumping of their billions of Bitcoin. I mean, these guys just do not stop selling. It's almost a miracle, frankly, that we're still above $100,000 because there's been, dozens and dozens, it seems like, of these guys, who bought Bitcoin at $10 and are selling it, and they have bags worth billions, and yet we're above 100K still. So, it's positive in one sense, but man, these guys got to cool it on the sell button to let the market recover a bit. Second thing is we need, I think, QE to start in earnest, right? We have, I think, very good chance of a rate cut coming in December. I believe the meeting date is December 9th. The labor market does not look good at all. We got more data coming in from one of the private firms, one of the private recruiters, 150,000 or so jobs lost, layoffs happening across a multitude of sectors. So the labor market does not look good. Fed is going to have to make a move. 25 basis point is probably what's going to happen. But what you start to come to realize is rate cuts are great. They sort of show what's coming. But the thing that's coming, and that what we need, is the actual quantitative easing, the Fed injecting money back into the system. Right, so that hasn't quite happened yet. We've had a little bit of shadow QE, as I'm calling it, 150 billion or so injected in the banking sector to help prop up some of their weakness. But we haven't had full-on earnest QE. That's normally when you start to see Bitcoin and true risk assets really run. So I think OG whales, calm down, guys. Like, why are you trying to? I guess they're trying to make the 4-year cycle a thing still. That's my guess. Is they're like, the 4-year cycle's intact. It's never failed me now. I'm going to keep dumping because the cycle's over and, it's going to be, 60% correction here soon. Meanwhile, you got Wall Street buying up a bunch of Bitcoin to try to combat that a little bit. And here we are in consolidation mode. And that's been the story for the past 3 to 6 months. So I expect that to continue up until we get a little bit more confirmation of QE coming or QE actually moving into the system here. But continue to be patient, guys. Stay locked in. Today was a reminder that the markets do bounce. Markets do turn green eventually. You just need the right set of catalysts for that to happen.
Yeah, and talking about QE, the last time Jerome Powell talked, they said QT will stop on December 1st. So you have that to look forward to. And then maybe right after that, you have an interest rate cut. So I know that was like a 90% chance in December. It's down to like a 70. But the data that we're seeing and the way that Jerome Powell has been talking, I think they don't backtrack that, and they still cut rates in December plus NQT December 1st. And talking about the biggest of QEs, Donald Trump saying, hey, we've made trillions and trillions of dollars off of tariff. A portion of that is going towards paying the national debt, which hopefully slows inflation. But the other portion is going to go in the form of $2,000 or more to U.S. Americans, American citizens. And I don't know about you, but last time there was a stimulus check, I didn't get any of it, but it was $1,200 during COVID. And Coinbase said they had a record number of $1,200 Bitcoin and Ethereum buys as people full ported their stimulus check into the crypto market. Is this $2,000 stimulus check and the timing with QE beginning what will stimulate the next altcoin season? What do you say? And it seems like this is more wide-ranging than just the $1,200 COVID one where you had to be really low income. This is saying everybody but the high-income earners, $2,000 or more, and no, it will not be from money printing, but from income driven by tariffs. What are your thoughts on this, Crypto Amaru?
Well, a couple things as to this, let's quote, speculation or promise that Trump is going to distribute $2,000 to, non-high income people as a result of the tariff income. For one, I think this may be, he's putting it out there to sort of put some political pressure perhaps on the Supreme Court, who are now here, who just heard a case to determine whether all his tariffs were in fact legal under the Constitution, right? So a little bit of political pressure, perhaps, sort of talking up, the benefits of tariffs for everyday people. The other thing is, so look, I don't know if this is really going to happen. The other thing is, Scott Benson, who's the Treasury Secretary, after this was, quote, announced by Trump, he was being interviewed across, all the different, Fox News and so on. And he was saying, well, it may not be a check. It may be some, something, we'll give a discount off your taxes or something. It may not be exactly like it was during COVID. So I kind of want people to hold their horses a little bit and not get their hopes up too much so we're all just going to get sent $2,000 checks. I don't see it necessarily playing out that way. We're going to have to kind of wait and see on this. This is not the first time Trump, and I think Elon also floated the idea in an earlier point here. So this is not the first time they've spoken about it. I don't know how it's going to take form. I wouldn't count on it necessarily happening in the near term. It's cool to talk about. It's great to see. But I wouldn't get your hopes up that you're getting a $2,000 check in the next weeks or even months.
Don't worry, guys. Crypto Amaru's wrong. You're going to get a big old fat check with the Donald J. Trump wet signature on it for $2,000. Not per household, per person. And we're all going to get rich. No, I don't know. I mean, I think, they floated this around the Doge, and now they're floating around the tariffs. I do think you make a good point. This puts pressure on the Supreme Court. This also puts pressures back on the Dems and those who don't like tariffs. But a stimulus check that doesn't take the printing of capital would be pretty dope. And, I wouldn't say no to it. Again, I don't know who's actually included in this. Like the COVID one, I got $0. I don't know about you. So it didn't really benefit me directly. But again, it helped pump the markets. It helped stimulate the economy, of which I am an owner of assets. I own collectibles. I own Bitcoin. I own businesses. So when the other people get the money, even though I don't directly get it, we still benefit in the back end with higher prices on those investments and more business consumerism at the businesses as well. So we'll see what happens. I think it's just another additive. And talking about another additive that has the people stirring is the addition of a 50-year mortgage option. If you guys didn't know, President Roosevelt added the 30-year mortgage option. Now, some people are going absolutely nuts. Like, why would we do 50 years? This isn't good for the people. This is terrible. Guys, it's just optionality. So as long as the mortgage standard, the loan standard remains the same, this isn't a bad thing. You can either buy a house with cash, you can do a 15-year mortgage, you can do a 30-year mortgage, and now you can potentially do a 50-year mortgage. So if you get down on your time and you need to refinance for a longer mortgage to keep your property to save the $200, $300, $400 a month, you can do that. Or if you're a new to the marketplace and you have a career where you think you're going to grow upwards, you can get the 50-year note to get the bigger house now, and once you get the raises, you can pay down the mortgage faster. So again, I'm not going to sit here and say you need to do a 50-year mortgage, it's great for you, because it's not. You're going to pay more interest, but in some situations it does allow people who couldn't afford a 30-year or a 15-year note to still get a property, still get in the housing market, or those who believe they have upside to get that bigger house up at the front. So I don't know what your thought is. I don't see it as a negative. Would I do a 50-year mortgage? No, but I don't think it's bad.
Everyone should love this idea. And if the 50-year mortgage was proposed by Biden, the Dems would be cheering it on. Who benefits from it? Well, obviously the banks benefit from it because they will receive significantly more interest payments over the life of a 50-year mortgage versus a 30-year. But in all likelihood, someone who enters into a 50-year, they're probably not going to keep it for all 50 years. They're probably going to refinance at some point. They're going to move. I mean, no one's going to sit there and pay 50 years worth of mortgage payments. That's not just simply not going to happen. What it allows you to do, and the other reason people should love it, is if you're a new homeowner, if you're looking to get on the property ladder, you now have the ability to do that a little bit easier, right? You can now get that 50-year mortgage. It's lower payments. initially, allows you to get into a home a little bit more easily. And then as time goes on, refinance, whatever, get a different style mortgage if or pay it off early, whatever the case may be. Asset owners, homeowners. I'm a homeowner. I love it. I love it. Now it's, there's going to be more people in the market to buy homes. The value of my home goes up. So homeowners love it. Bitcoiners, you guys should love it too. I saw a awesome post. I don't know how realistic it is, but it was a guy saying, I know, like on its face, someone is going to have to, you'll pay more to the bank over the course of the life of this month. But if you take the savings every month you get from having the 50-year versus the 30, and you dump it into Bitcoin, and that grows 20% annually over 50 years, you'll make and he did just some basic, $500,000 house or whatever, is basic math. You'll make millions in Bitcoin. Now, granted, most people, 99.9% of people will not do that because most people are too dumb to invest in their future. We did a whole post about that last week. But technically, you could take the savings, put it into Bitcoin, and even though you pay more to the bank over the life of the loan, you'll actually end up with more on top because you'll invest in Bitcoin, which goes up 20% year over year. So everyone should love it. If it was Biden who announced it, the Dems would love it too, but it's the ridiculous partisan world we live in. This is nothing but positive from my standpoint.
Yeah, I think the people who are looking for a dip in the housing market, this hurts them as well. So, just like we see bears wanting to talk down the markets and flood the markets, maybe the people who've been holding out to buy property are the ones trying to talk this down because, like you said, this does continue to stimulate or even appreciate the current assets on the market because people get priced out. So, for example, I don't want to use my property, but anyways, you buy a property, it goes up in value. Now the number of people who can actually afford to buy that from you, if you wanted to sell, continues to shrink. Well, now that just expanded a little bit because now instead of $3,000 mortgage, they could pick it up for a $2,500 mortgage. So now you're in a bigger width of people who could actually afford to buy that house. Those who could afford it at a 15-year and 30-year note, but now you have people that could afford it at a 50-year note. Again, I think, from a face value, it's a lot of interest and it might not be the best move. But from the perspective of optionality, housing prices, and people who think they're going to continue to go up the chain at their work, I think it's a smart move. So let's see what happens. I drank some water down the wrong pipe, and I feel like I'm dying over here. But
once again, Trump thinking outside the box, trying to help everyday Americans. I know people on the left are just everything he does is bad, but this is populism. This is Mom Donnie should love this. You know what I mean? Oh, let's allow the poorer folks who are struggling to get on the property ladder and then refinance later, and change your mortgage later once you have more money to do that. So I think it's all good. Love to see Trump thinking outside the box, trying to help the little guy, and of course it benefits us asset owners as well. So good work, Trump. What other stories we got going on today?
Talking about the little guy, big news came out about Richard Hart launching a new privacy protocol on Pulse Chain. Originally, they were calling it Mr. Prove. Now it's been voted to be called ProveX, and now there's logos and everything else. And it does look like there is going to be a token associated with this and some kind of sacrifice. The website isn't live yet. Details around the sacrifice isn't live yet. We remember we thought it was going to be a privacy protocol, which we were right on. I said it would not make sense to have a token because you're going to have people liquidate out of the cores to get into that token. Well, it does look like there's going to be a token. So we're going to need more information on that. Now, the side argument to that is if it is a sacrifice, that means that he'll probably only accept Pulse Chain, PulseX, Inc., and Hex. Means people would have to buy those assets in order to invest in this asset, which locks up those tokens and generally will push those prices up higher. And then we'll see what Mr. Prove does in the open market, ProveX. So we haven't really commented on this that much because the information isn't there yet, but it is very close. He says the URL is ready, the website is ready, the white paper is ready, the details are ready. So we're just waiting to get those to provide you more insight to that. But overall, the Pulse Chain market has liked it. Yesterday in the live show, we showed that it looked like we wanted to break out. We saw a green candle right here after the live show. Then we had a sell the news event because people like ourselves did not like the fact that he's looking at another token. He wanted it to just be a platform that benefits the core tokens. But since then, we have seen a rally off the lows as more information is coming out and people start to speculate on, all right, well, if he only accepts Pulse Chain and you get outsiders who want to invest in this because privacy is so hot, that could pump these assets as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so let's talk about the product itself a little bit because I read his post. I wasn't super clear, frankly, on what it was. It sounded like sort of an OTC escrow, P2P swapping platform, right? Which to me, I mean, sounds great, I guess, but we have had those in the past. It's not a new concept. So I'm curious about the product. Maybe I may take as incorrect that it's not that exactly. It's something a little different. But so it's going to be interesting on the product side what actually it is. What chains does it involve? Is it just pulse chain or is it multi-chain? Any sort of early traction he might have on it. I mean, there's a lot of questions I have around the product because that is going to really determine whether the token itself does well. So the product, when you figure out the token, also curious about the token. There's no details around where the token economics, what's the details around the sacrifice, what coins are going to be involved in the sacrifice, what valuations. I mean, there's just so many unknowns at this point. There isn't even a website. So I don't want to criticize it yet, and I don't want to talk it up yet. I just don't feel I know enough information on the product or the token. I'm not against there being a sacrifice on its face. I'm not against there being a new token on its face. Devil's in the details, right? Like, is this going to benefit, and how is this going to benefit the other core pulse chain assets, or is it just going to detract from them, right? So there's some open-ended questions here. Let's not rush to conclusions. Let's wait for more information. Hopefully it's a great product. Hopefully it solves a legit problem. Hopefully it gets traction. And if those things happen, then it's going to be a success. So we should all root for it. And hopefully it's multi-chain as well. I'd love to see it being core to pulse chain, maybe requires pulse chain for gas or whatever the proof token for some sort of usage of the product, but the product works across multiple chains. He kind of leads us to believe that because he says essentially you'll be able to swap any asset using this technology, not just pulse chain, not just even crypto. He's talking about all kinds of different stuff. So you'd expect it to be multi-chain, multi-asset. Let's see where this goes. I am staying positive around it. Let's not rush to conclusion. Let's not be too critical. Let's see how this thing plays out and try to support it if it's going to be positive for everybody.
Yep, I'm in the same place. People are like, why haven't you done a video? Why? Because if I just do a video, it'll be like everybody else, just reading this tweet, speculating. We don't need to speculate right now. We told us within days we're going to have logo, name, website, white paper, sacrifice set. All that stuff is going to be dictated, and then we can actually dive into the due diligence, the fundamentals, how it impacts the Mr. Proof token, how it impacts the core tokens, how it impacts Pulse Chain as a whole. So we'll just wait, and I bet you by the end of this week we'll have some more information where we can actually talk like we know what we're talking about rather than just speculating.
Well, it sounds like NJ Dub knows what he's talking about. He's forking ZK P2P and adding deflationary token that burns fees, pretty much. Sounds like you're more in the know than I am, so appreciate you jumping in, being a part of the conversation. Yeah, that was my take. It was like a peer-to-peer swapping product that uses smart contract as an escrow, so it's trustless, etc. And then you add the token deflationary. So look, that's a useful thing. Do I see it getting as popular as Uniswap? No, I do not. But hey, that's just me. We'll see where this thing goes. While we are at it, I want to say good morning and hello to all our loyal listeners trying to win that $1,000 per month we're giving away. Hey Chapo, good morning, good morning. Bagito, good to see you, my friend. Hello, Martin, Jay, and of course NJ Dub. Shout out to you as well. Thank you for jumping in the conversation, everybody. So yeah, let's see where this Proof. By the way, I like ProveX better than Mr. Proof. Yeah, Mr. Proof sounds a little silly. I don't know. ProveX seems a little more serious. I don't know. I just like the name better. It'd be interesting to see how much of the protocol and of the token and community, everything is, is it going to be like a DAO-based, community-based thing, or is it going to be Richard Hart's thing? Sounds like a little bit more DAO-based. You mentioned a vote that changed the name. So I like the direction with respect to sort of it being more decentralized from a governance standpoint. I think that's pretty sweet. Let's see where this thing goes, and we'll be rooting for it as long as it's halfway decent. What's up, Frank? What's up,
talking
Chad?
about altcoins, and we've been talking about pre-sales, and Nate did a video on will pre-sales come back, and well, some big news from Coinbase. They're apparently going to unveil a rumored new launchpad platform. So now there's potentially going to be a pre-sale market that is supported by Coinbase itself. I think this does a couple things. Number one, this could spur interest in pre-sale market. This could get retail back on board into early stage investment opportunities. but also this shows you that the regulatory framework in the United States right now is stronger than it's ever been for crypto, which does open the door for accelerated gains, accelerated growth of the ecosystem and of the technology. Does that mean that there won't be any more scams? No, but does that mean that we can make money off those scams? Well, potentially, and that's what we're looking at right here for Coinbase to be launching a launchpad. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think it means for regulation? What do you think it means for retail and the opportunity to make some gains?
Well, this platform wouldn't be launching if it hadn't been for the Trump administration sort of backing off and allowing the crypto market to sort of flourish and not just sue it out of existence, but what Biden was trying to do. So from that standpoint, all positive. From a product standpoint or kind of a usage standpoint, my take generally on launchpads is that sector of the market only does well when things are very risk on because they're new coins. Something new is inherently more risky. You need secondary market buyers for these coins to actually perform well once they launch. If they launch and there's no buyers, the token goes down, down, down because all you have are pre-sale people selling and no buyers. So, that can and does happen when the market's, flat or bearish. So, the timing has to work. The biggest thing is how is this going to involve the base token, right? Is the base token going to somehow be involved in this launch pad? Because, right, like the base token, that chain, it's an L2 of Ethereum, that requires Ethereum for gas. So are you just going to have it be governance and that was going to be the only utility for the base coin? Or is it going to be tied into the launch pad somehow? If it's the latter, I think that's very bullish for the launchpad because that's a much better utility than just governance, right? Hold a certain amount, get access to pre-sales, etc. That's a tried and true utility. One of the utilities is Surf, as a matter of fact, right? So that's all positive if it happens that way. But we need the market to get a little bit more risk on for pre-sales to do well. But yeah, man, happy to see Coinbase kind of getting into the action a little bit, doing stuff that Binance did like 5 years ago. Coinbase is finally doing it. So shout out to Brian Armstrong. Shout out to Trump for allowing it to happen, and all positive from my standpoint.
Let's see, what other news articles? Is there anything that we missed, guys, over the weekend? I mean, we talked about all the things going on with Trump, with the 50-year, with the government reopening, with the $2,000 stimulus check. We talked about Coinbase potential launchpad and how that could tie to the base coin airdrop that could stimulate an alt season over on Base and on Coinbase. And we know I'm rooting for that because those are the people who can actually onboard retail. The number one onboarders to retail, at least in the Western civilization, is Coinbase and Robinhood. And then, of course, we are going to see another wave for Binance, I believe, as now there's Binance US. You got CZ talking about really leading the way in the United States, revolutionizing crypto and crypto acceptance. So I am waiting for the day for it to all come full circle and to be able to use the main Binance.com again here in the United States. That's where it all really started for me when it came to altcoins. Of course, we were already in the markets, but then Binance launched, KuCoin launched, and some others, and Binance was the one I chose, and that one allowed for so many airdrops, so much staking passive income, and so much opportunity. It would be great to get back on Binance exchange, preferably. Lower fees than Coinbase, more options than Coinbase, and maybe Coinbase is going to catch up. It looks like Coinbase obviously has staking. They're looking at launch pools. You have the Binance Alpha and the Binance Launchpad that's existed for years. So maybe the people here in the United States will get on board and get some of those opportunities. But the fact of the matter is, I think Binance is willing to live in the gray area a little more. And when they're willing to live in the gray area, it does give you some more opportunity to make some gains. Versus Coinbase seems to always be kind of chasing the opportunity because they are, at the forefront of regulation here in the United States.
Yeah, that's just how it is. That's their lot in life. I don't feel too bad for Brian Armstrong, one of the richest guys in crypto, one of the most successful guys. So he's managed to build a very successful business, even among the constraints of regulation. But that is changing. I think the shackles are off, so to speak. That's why you're seeing the launchpad. That's why you're seeing the native token. I think you'll probably see some more innovative, like, quote, riskier or, more gray area type products. I think they're getting into perpetuals as well if they haven't already. So, the playing field is slowly being leveled thanks to the regulators backing off. So I think that's all positive and good. My whole thing is like, when is the market itself finally going to catch up to all the positive news and the regulators, sort of taking a back seat, all the catalysts that we constantly talk about? When are we finally going to see the market? I know we're up like 5% over the past day or two, which is nice to see. but we're about 20% off the all-time high on Bitcoin. When do you think we start to see a meaningful pump, break out of the consolidation, and smash towards all-time highs again?
Well, I mean, the 80-day lag on Bitcoin chasing gold is mid-November. So that means here within the next couple of weeks, you're going to continue to see an uptrend if Bitcoin is going to stick to that 80-day lag of gold. As we know, gold ran up to $4,400 and is now sitting at $4,000. That rotation was perfect at the low of Bitcoin of 103. Obviously, we just had another dip. So we'll see how that happens. So that's something in our favor. Number two, seasonality. End of the year should be green. I know it hasn't been. Still a lot of time left in November to flip green, and we'll be right back on track. We have QT ending December 1st. You have more rate cuts happening in December. And now you have rumors of stimulus checks. So with the government reopening, NASDAQ looks like it wants to go to new all-time highs. It is crazy to me that we're still lagging as crypto as an industry because stocks and gold and everything else has done so great. Collectibles are doing great too. I'm selling Pokemon boxes by the day because their values are just so high. So, I think part of that is just you have the self-fulfilling prophecies that are saying, hey, this is a 4-year cycle, so I'm just going to sell out, even though I believe it's going to be a 5-year cycle. Part of that is the massive whales in Bitcoin that have sold literally billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars on the open market, and that's getting recycled to new buyers, Michael Saylor, new retail investors, the new future whales of Bitcoin. So that's kind of slowed everything down. But my answer is I think that we need to get ripping and roaring as we speak. We were hoping we just had the final fifth wave, get the shakeout below 98K, and we are done. That hasn't happened with the news of the government opening. So, let's get above 115,000, and then I think we're off to the races. And again, the 80-day lag on gold means mid-November. We got to start ripping it. Right now, we are November 10th. So, got to get moving here quickly.
Well, it'd be nice, but I don't know if that's a foregone conclusion or we need to. I'll still hold, even if it takes a little bit longer. But to me, a couple things have happened. The biggest story is just the whales selling out. The other story is as to why things aren't pumping, right? The other story is the prevalence, and I want to call it the takeover of the perpetuals trading market. Right? Last summer, retail could make money on memes. That's gone. The only way for retail to make money now really is speculating price up or down on whatever leverage that they're willing to risk, and that then sort of creates these perverse incentives for the exchanges and the market makers to either suppress the price or really they should also pump the price at times too, right? Direct the shorts. Should be going both ways, and I think it does. But it feels like they've been wrecking the longs recently and pushing the price down heavily over the past, month. Of course, the whale selling out doesn't help anything either. So I don't know what's going to break us out. To me, fundamentally, it always comes down to more sellers than buyers or more buyers than sellers. And over the past few months, we've had more sellers than buyers, I think mostly due in part to these big whales. Eventually, they either run out or they say, you know what, I'm done, taking profits here, and the market will recover, and you have enough recovery days in a row. Confidence comes back. People start FOMOing in, taking their stables and moving back into the markets, and that's where you start to see your mega green candles. But I don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, this whole market's been expect the unexpected, and so I know you're saying that 80 days is coming to an end here, and we're almost in mid-November as it is. So, when does that actually flow into Bitcoin? We'll have to see, but expect the unexpected and just hold.
We got Martin in here saying no more cycles, just up. Well, I mean, that was one of the theories on how I came up with Bitcoin to 100,000, Bitcoin to 244,000, the elongating of the cycle. And although only one of those has come true so far, it still looks like the other ones will follow suit. And that is because, when gold got its first spot ETF, it literally went on a 10-year bull run. That doesn't mean it went straight up, but it went sideways to higher. A bull market is denoted by higher lows and then higher highs. Just like we just showed on a smaller scale that Bitcoin isn't a short-term bear trend. Gold went on a bull trend for 10 years after the spot ETF was launched. So the Bitcoin spot ETF just launched. Bitcoin has rallied from 15,000 to 50,000 to 125,000. And we'll see if that does dampen bear cycles here in the crypto markets, or at least for the top assets that have spot ETFs like Bitcoin, Ethereum, soon to be Solana, and others. That is what could really spur altcoins, is these other spot ETFs need to take off, need to get inflows, need to pump those underlying prices. And if these whales could just stop selling and stop, self-fulfilling prophecy of the 4-year cycle, I think we could go higher very quickly as momentum and morale would shift drastically. As we just saw retailer FOMOing for $30 trillion gold. If you think they wouldn't FOMO for $3 trillion crypto, I think you're crazy.
You hear that, whales? Calm the F down. I know you held for 10 or 15 years. What's another couple of years of holding? Like,
you don't need $9 billion. Sell $3 billion. Come on.
Well, it's, but eventually, look, it's going to happen. They'll either run out of tokens or they'll decide to sell a hold, and the market will be allowed to recover here. The other big catalyst that we've spoken about a bit, haven't really dwelled on too much, is the comprehensive market structure bill. The big question in my mind is, does that come with an official green light from Congress within that law, which will allow Americans to invest through their 401ks into crypto? Trump ordered it to happen. I believe it was proposed by Republicans. They want to push it through. Will that be a part of the comprehensive market bill, or will it not? That's a big thing. That's a very, very big thing. We obviously expect within the market bill clarity around what constitutes a security. Are there carve-outs for crypto coins? Are those going to be commodities? Who's going to regulate and sort of govern the market, CFTC versus SEC? Like, there are certain things we know and expect. The big question mark in my mind is, are they going to allow Americans with their 401ks to invest in crypto? When that happens, when that finally does happen, that is going to unleash an avalanche of long-term holders, right? That's how 401k investors operate. They're long-term by nature. They will start to invest into crypto and crypto-adjacent assets. When that happens, I think we're absolutely running higher. And then the third thing is just quantitative easing, right? This is what I remember. This happened at the end of 2019. The end of 2019 was, I believe, the end of that tightening cycle, right? They had actually been, I believe, increasing their rates. They had been selling off their holdings, the Fed that is, and they were tightening, right, up until the end of 2019. Then they said, okay, we're going to stop, because I guess they were, whatever inflation they were worried about had been tamped out. Labor market's looking shaky. Okay, now we got to reverse course. So we're in that same phase. We're like the very end of the rate tightening cycle here, literally the very end, 3 weeks until the QT is over. And then how long does it take for them to switch course and start injecting money? Because in 2019, actually in 2020, I think in February, they started to put money back in the economy, and that is exactly, you see in the charts. Sit on Bitcoin charts. Of course, you had COVID shortly thereafter, which accelerated the QE even further. But the start of QE, that's the big thing for risk assets. And does that happen at the end of this year, early next year? We'll just have to wait and see. But it's been a long cycle. It's been a long consolidation. We're all tired. The patience. It's testing even my patience. And my middle name is Mr. Patience. But it's been difficult for everyone here. Just got to stay locked in, guys, and I think it's going to all be fine.
Yeah, I just think that we've talked about it a lot, and other people are starting to talk about it. The Cardones are starting to talk about it. There's just a lot of money out there. You talk about the 401k, that is trillions of dollars. You talk about the money market where people have their cash in this investment that, usually 10-year, 30-year treasury yields or whatever, and that is going to be decreasing with interest rate cuts. So that's why you want to root for interest rate cuts as well, because there's $7.5 trillion there. And if the APR gets low enough, they're going to have to chase investments, risk on assets, or other yield-bearing opportunities, and that could be Bitcoin and crypto. And the list goes on. So we're holding tight. It ain't fun. The balance feels okay. Everything's still on track. Where do things break, Nick? When do you say, no, that's failure? Well, I guess if MicroStrategy, BitMine, SharpLink Gaming all fail to keep buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, if the spot ETF, instead of inflows, turns into outflows, because even on this downturn, the spot ETFs are having inflows, meaning it is crypto native OGs that are selling and non-crypto native institutional finance people are the ones buying. That's what's going on here. The great rotation that Crypto Amaru talks about. And then again, you still have the chance of the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Fund being passed. What's her face? Lumen still talks about that all the time. That still hasn't officially happened here in the United States. They're not selling the Bitcoin we hold, but we need that strategic reserve narrative so that way they can actually figure out ways to accumulate more Bitcoin. And once that happens, which I think it will happen, I think that spurs another FOMO from other governments and nation states around the globe to FOMO into Bitcoin, Ethereum, or their asset of choice as well. We haven't been hearing about that in quite a while. El Salvador still buys, yeah. U.S. still holds, sure. Kazakhstan with CZ is buying some BNB and Bitcoin, but we need to get that big FOMO from those big players as well, which I think will happen when that kind of legislation gets passed as well.
Yeah, the game theory around the strategic reserves from a nation state standpoint, that's a fascinating topic to discuss and follow. I don't know if I shared with you, there was a tweet that someone had done showing the holdings of, it was 8 or 10 different states, or not states, but countries. Let's see if I actually shared that with you guys or I just looked at it. Yeah, I may not have actually shared it, sadly enough, but bottom line is there is probably 8 or 10 different countries out there. U.S. leads the way, right? China's number 2, and then you have a smattering of smaller countries. Do one of the smaller countries, right? The U.S. is slow because the Democrats hate Trump, and anything Trump likes is bad, so therefore Bitcoin's bad. We're never going to vote for this. That is what's happening in this country, by the way. The Dems hate crypto because Trump's gotten rich off of it. They don't own any, and of course Trump did it. It's bad. Does another country step in and say, okay, we don't care about any of that. We just want to make money. We see a money-making opportunity. And are we going to now start taking actually the income they receive from taxes or natural resources or whatever and actually start buying it up? We haven't really seen that yet. Maybe outside of Kazakhstan sort of talking about it, and of course El Salvador and their 1 Bitcoin a day. Do we have some smaller countries stepping in, almost front-running the U.S., thereby causing Bitcoin price to pump, confidence to come back in the market, and then maybe even the Dems get FOMO and say, you know what, we can't miss out on this generational opportunity for making money. We gotta open up the reserves and maybe sell some of our gold or whatever and buy Bitcoin. It'll be very interesting to see that game theory play out. Who among those nation states is the first to aggressively accumulate Bitcoin? Not just, confiscate it from criminals and hold it, which is really what's been happening.
Yeah, and I think the play right now is just look to buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, buy Surf, and buy PTGC. That's kind of the play. That's what we're watching. We also still like BNB, so let's go ahead and show that chart. We haven't looked at that. But BNB was the darling for quite a while, and now is below $1,000 on the market-wide weakness. But it still doesn't look all that bad here. Coming back into levels, you can see the liquidation crisis right here, this one big red wick. You retested down there, and now you have rallied off those lows. You have neutral indicators, so this could continue higher. Now, you are going to see a bearish cross here if the moving averages keep trending this way. So we'll see how this all plays out. But again, this looks like an ABC correction completed to me. You could argue if you're bearish that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and you need a 5th wave down here to retest this low one more time. That would be the final move for the bear trend for probably BNB, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, the final shakeout before we go to Valhalla. Now, I don't want to see that, guys. I don't want to see these be 5 waves down. I wish it was ABC corrections and we're done. But I will say a 5 wave down, a minor new low, will get all the bears gloating and bragging. We'll shake out all the weak hands, and we'll get everybody saying, yes, see, 4-year cycle, indeed. It's over. Bitcoin didn't follow gold. Cycle's over. And that would be the final shakeout before the move to quantitative easing, quantitative tightening ending, and the rip and roar rally of regulation into Q1 and Q2 of 2026. So, I don't know. The most painful would be that way. I'm sure that would leave a lot of people behind and even chase the patience of Crypto Amaru himself away if we went ahead and saw that.
I don't think CZ's going to let that happen. Not with respect to BNB. I mean, of course, the overall market trend has to be aligned for him to start pumping it again. But it's not hard for CZ to pump the price of BNB. Well, let's just call it for what it is, right? He owns 60-something% of the supply. Of course, a lot of it's also held on Binance, right, where they have the means and ability to sort of influence the price on that exchange, right? So I'm not too worried about BNB hitting all-time highs again. I think it absolutely will, assuming Bitcoin resumes its uptrend here in the next week or month or whatever. So BNB is going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. One thing that's pumping today more aggressively than others, which we don't cover too often. I know we can talk about coin, but I also was curious what's going on with XRP. Why is XRP running today maybe more heavily compared to others? I haven't heard any specific news, but looks like XRP is on another tear here.
Yeah, it looks like XRP is up 6.7%, which is much more than many other in the market. But if you look at the chart, this looks a lot like Bitcoin and Ethereum. You're still at lower highs and lower lows. So still on a bear trend overall. Haven't heard any news, but it looks like they're trying to fight it up. Some of the blue collar workers buying up some XRP to try to push this thing. But again, this chart just looks a lot like Ethereum and Bitcoin. Until you get higher highs and a higher low, you're still in an overall bear trend. And I know the XRP people are probably excited because you're up 6.7% today, but you're not out of the woods yet either. If you want to get out of the woods, help pump it over $2.80.
Yeah, looks like we haven't quite broken out to the point where you expect it to go much higher here. So likely more consolidation ahead for all your favorite assets. But I don't mind consolidation. At the end of the day, like consolidation, a little up, a little down, whatever. It's those multiple weeks or even months of down, down, down that really start to grind at you. Really start to make you question. But a little up, a little down, green here, red there. Hey, I can take that any day of the week. So let's just see how things play out this consolidation when we finally do break out and start a new uptrend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame we don't have more alpha for you guys, or we're not in the market cycle where we can come on here and tell you buy this and we can all make a lot of money, but we're just not there right now. So right now it's a lot of watching, learning, patience, having conviction in the assets that we hold, continue earning that passive income, and we'll get to a point soon enough where we're going to be able to come on here and give you guys some more alpha, just like we did over the past weeks where we were telling you to buy the Zen at $6, $8, $10, $11, and now it's at $15 as Privacy had its big runoff. Privacy has cooled down a bit today with the rest of the market. But we're still up on that Zen position, and Zcash still over $600. Do you think the privacy narrative is over and dead, or do you think this is a normal drawdown in an uptrend for the privacy narrative? I know Richard Hart believes privacy narrative is vital to crypto and will continue to have upside as he's about to launch a privacy protocol on Pulse Chain. But what are your thoughts on ZEC, Zen, Dash, and some of the Decred, Monero, and some of that privacy narrative that was so hot just for the past 2 weeks?
I doubt it's completely dead. But understand how these mini cycles operate. First, you have like the big winner. In this case, it was Zcash, right? Just massive outperformance, FOMO, influencers. I mean, just wow, I can't believe, look at this thing go. And then you have the copycats, the followers that, in this case, I don't want to call them copycats, maybe because the technology is all somewhat different. But coins within that sector, adjacent to Zcash, they're going to go up, maybe not quite as much, but they'll go up a bit. And then it's just kind of diminishing returns from there. I don't see it pumping another 2x or something like that on Zcash. I don't see that much capital coming into it. Perhaps when the market's running again and Bitcoin's up and eats 10K or whatever, then we'll see another big pump on privacy. But my guess is probably the best is behind us. We might see something happening across few of these, Zcash, others, but nothing like we saw for the first month there. So I think it's mostly done if we're being honest about it. But who knows? I could be wrong. This market surprised me in the past many times.
Martin says, why can't we have nice things in crypto anymore? And Rima says, not that I believe that. I think we have the best still to come for BTC and for alts. That's in her reply that their crypto cycle without an alt season would definitely rinse out retail. Yeah, the problem is I just don't think there's much retail left. I think there is actually a lot of like retail here, but they're all down on their backs. And those retail that only have $100 in or $1,000 in the market, they're not going to be talking about it. They're not going to be dollar cost averaging unless price is going up. That's just the nature of the beast when it comes to low end retail. And right now they're trapped in their bags. They FOMO'd in the mini meme season that we had. They FOMO'd in the mini utility season that we had. They're caught holding the bags. They're down 20, 40, 60, 80%. They didn't have a ton of conviction because they're brand new to the market and they only know the market down and to the right. So you don't get those people talking to their family, friends, and expanding the retail until prices go green and until they're in the green as well. So that's why we're kind of in a stagnant place. Institutions are buying, but the big whales are selling, offsetting that. The retail that's trapped in bags isn't expanding to their friends. They're not dollar cost averaging, well, because it's their first cycle. They don't have that much conviction in crypto. They just thought it was a get-rich-quick scheme. And so far, seasonality is not in the favor of crypto. Now, I would love, best case scenario, Bitcoin follows the trend for gold, the 80-day lag, just in time for Thanksgiving, just in time for Christmas, just in time for New Year's, because that is when you're around your family. And we all love to be the hero, the genius in the family, not the one getting ridiculed, but also when you are the, quote, genius in the family, you're going to tell your family members about it. You're going to help them set up Coinbase, Robinhood, get them onboarded. And that is why Bitcoin and crypto has seasonality, because you go and talk about it, you brag about your wins, you talk about your losses, and you get new people onboarded. So that none of that happens this year if Bitcoin is red. None of it happens. So it's going to be all negative during the holidays. You're not going to get any new onboards. It's very hard to onboard people when prices are down. Very easy to onboard people to chase hype and tops.
Yeah, that's absolutely how retail operates. But what causes that initial pump, right? That is the liquidity cycle. That is the quantitative easing. And again, we've now been in 2 years of quantitative tightening. You'd expect the altcoin market to look like this and to feel like this, and max pain and max fear, because they've just beaten us down by selling, and basically the Fed, that is, and basically sucking money out of the economy and trying to tamp down inflation. And this is what happens at the end of the rate tightening cycle. You have a lot of job layoffs, risk assets are down, morale's down. It's almost a miracle, frankly, that the stock market's doing as well as it has, and Bitcoin's done as well as it has. But remember, if you even look at the stock market, it's really like 7 or 8 companies propping up the entire index. The low caps, I forget what they're actually called in stock market parlance, smaller companies, they're getting killed. You know, it's really just like Nvidia, Amazon's, the Magnificent Seven, dragging everything up. So, you know, stock market outside of those 7 companies are beaten down. All the altcoins beaten down. Bitcoin's done well because of Michael Saylor, I guess, for the most part, institutions. But we're at the end of a quantitative tightening cycle, and this is what you expect. So we've got to wait for that QE to truly shift over, and you know it's great that it's stopping on the tightening is stopping on December 1st. When do we get the money being truly injected in the markets? That's really the big question mark. But we will have an alt season. We will absolutely have an alt season because the money will get injected. People will get risk on again. Money will start chasing risky assets, and then green candles beget more green candles, and the retail and everyone gets excited and talking around the Thanksgiving table, Christmas table, or who knows, maybe that'll be the beginning of next year. But eventually retail will come back. We need this QT to end. We need the QE to start. It's the same story every cycle, guys. So this isn't really rocket science. It's just painful. The waiting and the prices going down and you questioning everything. It's hard, but it's not rocket science.
We got Hexbull in the house saying, "What's up, boys?" He was late because he's probably still on vacation, or he's celebrating the announcement of Mr. Prove or ProveX. This guy over here, he's weathering the storm better than most. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, if you were early to crypto, you've had some big wins. This is just all how many cycles have you been here, guys, right? And you've stayed locked in. That's really what it comes down to. If you're up, then you can weather these storms. It's painful, but you're still like, okay, I've made a lot of money in crypto. I know the price is going down, but I still believe in my core holdings that I have, and it's all going to be fine. The newer folks, I do feel for them, though. Like the folks who've gotten in the past couple of years have seen almost nothing but down when it comes to altcoins. And that's not easy. It just beats you down, and the morale is low, and you don't want to continue on. You want to exit the market, even at a loss. Forget about this scam crypto. Of course, as soon as you do that, that's normally when the market starts to rip and roar again, you get left behind. So, a bit of a rock and a hard place. My suggestion is stick with it. Stay locked in. Eventually things are going to turn around, and this bearish period will all be a distant memory.
Yeah, I don't think we have much else to cover. Let's just stay locked in. We need to see higher highs on the 4-hour chart for Ethereum or Bitcoin to have this thing turn around. The same applies to us getting more information on Mr. Prove or ProveX that Richard Hart is looking to launch to help pump Pulse Chain. Hopefully that information on that website, that URL, white paper, etc. comes out this week so we can get some content out for you. The Surf token continues to follow in the footstep of Pulse Chain. When Pulse Chain is green, Surf catches some bids, and we have capital available for a marketing campaign when retail makes sense to do so. We still have the Dow doing its thing, doing buybacks and burns, buybacks and LP ads, and we have other projects that are doing buys and burns of Surf over time as well. We are approaching the 4% burned out of total supply for the Surf token, even though it's been launched in the doldrum of Pulse Chain, in the doldrum of altcoins. We're trying to provide alpha, opportunity, and value to the holders of Surf. And look, when the markets turn around, that is that much less surf in the open markets that can ever be sold again. And I think things could heat up very rapidly when everything starts to turn around here. What do you think about Crypto Paradise as a brand, about Surf as a token tied to that brand, and what that means for the future of those holders?
Oh, I'm not worried about that at all. I mean, you know, crypto is cyclical. The businesses that operate within crypto are cyclical. I think we position ourselves very nicely to benefit from an uptrend when it does finally come, because we've stuck with it, right? Like, how many, quote influencer or whatever just kind of went silent during this bear market? I bet you 90% left, right? 90% left. Meanwhile, here we're out here doing these live streams every day, still putting out content, still engaging the community, still hunting for opportunities. We got Frontier Fund, which did take a loss the last period, but is working its way back up into profits. Everyone who got in earlier still in profits, even with the loss that happened. No liquidation happened, but just down on the holdings. We had pre-sale opportunity that launched backstage, didn't do well, sadly, but I think that can recover. I call them tomorrow. Bottom line is this: we're still active, we're still looking for opportunities, we're still making content, we're still working hard. Eventually, good things will happen when the market does turn around and opportunities become money-making opportunities. Right now, the opportunities have been money-losing opportunities for the past few months, which is painful. But eventually, the opportunities turn into money, more money, because investments go up again, and we'll be very well positioned to get more pre-sales, get more marketing deals, more alpha calls. We're looking to bring on a researcher who's going to help us hunt in the trenches for those opportunities. So we're positioned well. Very well here at Crypto Paradise. Frankly, our burn rate's super low too, because we don't have any expenses really to speak of. Learn our lessons from previous startups on that. So we can do this forever. It's just we got obviously look. We want the market to go up, so token go up, money making opportunity go up. That then trickles down to you guys, who can also obviously make money if you're in the Dow from the various things we bring out. But again, it's just also market dependent. It's so cyclical. I joke to people like, how the oil people ask me, you're in crypto, and like, we talk about it or whatever. Tell them how cyclical it is. Like, it's like oil and gas on steroids. Oil and gas industry is very cyclical too, but their swings are like 30% difference in the price of oil, like kills the industry for 2 years. We're talking about 90% swings in crypto. I mean, it's just crazy what we go through in this space to try to eventually make money every 2 years, 3 years. But we're good. We ain't going anywhere. Eventually, opportunities come, money-making opportunities come, and that's going to benefit everybody.
I think we'll wrap that up. We'll get in Telegram to see if we can get some deals or some alpha. I know we have some other calls going on. We'll try to get more content. Hopefully, you like that the Twitter is more active. The Telegram is more active, as myself, Crypto Amaru, Tom, and Nate all have access to those accounts now. So we're trying to get more information out there and alpha out there for you guys. And we'll see if Nate continues to do some more of those solo live shows that he does, where he just kind of rants and raves about the latest topics that are affecting his area of the world and how he thinks it is affecting the crypto markets as well. So we're just trying to provide a full encompassing product here for you guys, and hopefully it is worth tuning in for entertainment purposes, for alpha generation, and when the market gets better, you can bet your bottom dollar that we will be on the winning side of more trades than not, because that is what history would show you. And even in these bear periods, we're still finding some beacons of light to get some 5x, 10x, and 20x gains for you guys.
Yeah, man, it's all on the beacons of light. Stay lost. We're still working. This is our full-time thing. Other than me raising my kids, and Nick's got other jobs, but this is pretty much what we do full-time. So that's the other thing, right? Like, a lot of these influencers, my guess is they've left the industry, or they couldn't hack it from a multi-year bear market, but yet here we are doing our thing, doing an amazing job. Thank you guys for your support. Remember to tell your friends about Crypto Paris. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Remember to like the tweets and the videos that go out on YouTube as well. When we get more tweets or likes, algorithm likes us, it shows it to more people. We get more followers then say, oh wow, these guys are doing something cool. I learned something today on the live stream. Oh wait, I can actually buy 200,000 surf and get access to alpha calls or pre-sales or different investment opportunities, I'm going to buy in here. So the flywheel, it does rely to a large degree on everyone actually, smashing the like button or commenting. So it takes 30 seconds, scrolling through your X every day, just get engaged. It helps us, and ultimately it helps you guys.
Yeah, the Surf token now over on Pulse Chain, which is a little bit gate kept, has just crossed the 1,000 holder count as well. Remember, we were in the 900s, then we were at 950. We just crossed the 1,000 holder count. So even though Pulse Chain is doing nothing, retail is doing nothing, altcoins are doing nothing, the Surf holder count continues to slowly grow as whales over there are getting rinsed out and replaced by smaller minnows that will be the whales of the future.
Yeah, great to hear that. Yeah, we'll get an announcement out around that. I think that's announcement worthy. Got some other announcements coming that we're cooking. The analysts looking like we're going to help, have him come on here pretty soon as well. If all things go according to plan, and that should help bring you guys more opportunities. We just need the market to turn around, folks. We just need the market to turn around, but this is how it always goes. I remember end of 2019, I was so beaten down. Everything was in the dumps. I was broke as shit then because I hadn't ever lived through a bull run. I was, struggling. I was actually living at my mom's house at that time. Partially due to COVID, but partially due to just being broke. So, I've lived through it, and then, of course, 2020 and 2021, everything changed because the market went bananas, and, we had some low-cap projects that did like 100 times. So, eventually things will turn around. We're at the end of the QT cycle here. Everyone's beaten down, everyone's hurting, but I promise you, just stay locked in, stay committed, the market turns, and you'll be happy you stayed in here. All right, boys, I'll let you get going. I want to give a shout out to Martin before we jump. He does memes. Martin does memes. I hope you have a real job too, Martin. I think that you do. Don't lose your day job. Don't quit your day job quite yet. Maybe in 6 months, maybe a year, you'll be able to do that and make memes full time for a living. What do you say about that? All right, ladies and gents. Good stuff today. We'll be back tomorrow, another live stream, and until then, we will see you on the beach.